Good morning. Yesterday was a bit of a rant. So I wanted to give a quick update, very quick update, and say that this is what I think is going to be a really usable workflow. And I think I should be able to settle on this and stick with it. First of all, I will continue to use Blender for pencil tests and inking. Why? The thing that Blender has over opentoonz is an infinite canvas. I love the fact that there's a 3D workspace and I can work at any scale I want, and when I at any point in time I can rescale my animated assets to whatever extent I want and have no loss. So the Blender grease pencil for pencil tests and inking I think is still going to work out fine. Number two, one thing I want to experiment with in that regard is this idea of taking something that you've created in Blender and then go ahead and add red lines like this and blue lines like this, because opentoonz with Toonz raster levels, when you do coloring or filling, it allows you to opentoonz is kind of smart that it will use red lines to indicate highlight areas and blue lines to indicate shadow areas, so that when you do your filling, you can if I were to fill this area in opentoonz, the red line would disappear. Same with the blue line, and so that would just give you your highlights and shadows. So that's quite useful. So Blender wins on the basis of an infinite canvas. Now Toonz I will probably be using for a combination of both ink and paint and filling, and then final compositing and that sort of thing. The effects in Toonz are extensive. The compositing, in the Blender compositor, for example, you really don't get real-time feedback. Okay, it doesn't really do a good job of caching the composite results so that when you hit the Alt-A, a composite actually plays back in real time. I'm sure that the stronger the hardware, the better it gets. But with opentoonz, it does a super good job of caching the results of a composite so that you can get a real-time playback. So that's good. So where does Krita fit in that mix? Well, if I'm just dealing with a single character and I want to add highlight, shadows, and color like I've been doing, great. Krita's fine. Or Krita is fine. I said Kita. Our dog's name is Kita. What are the odds? So Blender for pencil tests and inking, Krita for some inking, definitely for paint. One great thing about Krita is the mirrored drawing mode, or symmetrical, so that if you're drawing designing a character's face, you can draw the left side of the screen and it's mirrored on the right side. So that's quite useful for just keeping things symmetrical. Takes a little bit of the burden off me as an artist to get everything symmetrical all the time. So Krita sort of fits in the middle. Sometimes use it, sometimes not. I'm going to do some experimenting with this stuff as far as highlights and shadows, but basically everything I'm describing could all be done in Toonz quite well. But again, I do favor Blender for the infinite canvas. And then beyond that, I think that actually pretty much covers it, because again, the compositing, effects, glows in opentoonz is great. I mean, I really have nothing to complain about for that. So that's just an update, since my rant yesterday was pretty negative about Blender and Krita. I mean, they're great programs. The real problem was that Krita, once you start to go beyond the most basic animation capabilities, it starts breaking. So, and it is what it is. I'm sure it's going to improve over time, but I can't depend on that, right? So that seems like that's the workflow. Let's map things out, do pencil tests, and ink in either Blender. Ink can be Blender, Krita, or opentoonz. If I'm not doing it in Blender, probably the odds are I would just go straight to opentoonz, and in some cases I might just go ahead and do the pencil test there, because the My Paint brushes in the Toonz raster levels are great. You get really nice brush work that is superior to Blender. It's not superior to Krita necessarily, but again, the animation capabilities are all much stronger in opentoonz. So anyway, I just wanted to give that update because I feel pretty good about that workflow now. I'm going to probably post something soon letting you know what I've learned about using red and blue lines in in Blender. Bring that over to opentoonz. Does opentoonz properly respect the lines, for filling purposes, so you get highlights and shadows like I'm talking about? Let's find out if we run into any roadblocks with that. It could be, for example, that the blue needs to be an absolutely pure blue and the red needs to be pure red, that sort of thing. We could bump into that. I'm not sure exactly what opentoonz requires in order for the filling process to properly respect these indications, but if you've ever looked at any other videos on YouTube about anime production, you always see blue and red lines in the art, and that's why it's there. So anyway, if you have any questions or comments, I haven't really said this in the past, but I want to say that I don't have a ton of subscribers, but I appreciate each one of you. It seems like I've been picking up a subscriber every day, maybe about 10 a week or something, and I'm glad you guys are out there. And I don't get a lot of comments, probably because my videos aren't that entertaining, but I do. I'm happy to hear from you. When you guys have asked questions, I've tried to answer them as completely as possible. And so anyway, yesterday I was getting a little disappointed with my software, but the key is to work within the parameters of what's effective and what works well, and then just find the right tools to solve the problems at hand. So anyway, that's it for today. If you have any comments or questions or ideas, let me know, and I'm sure you'll be hearing from me again very soon.